Howdy folks, Stock here with Last Best Tool. And although titanium in tools is hypoallergenic, it's also extremely addictive. And I definitely carry the gene that makes me susceptible to titanium. I appreciate titanium in almost any application, not terribly as much in blades of knives, but definitely in handles and in accoutrements of the knife. And that's why I was so interested in this. This is the Benchmade Narrows. Now you probably didn't see it sitting there because it is so thin, but it's also controversial. Not that the use of titanium as a handle is controversial. It's controversial because of its price. Some people then at that price start to complain about other things, and I've got a few of those myself that I think an aftermarket kit would really upgrade. But basically this is a knife that has a street and retail value between $500 and $600. That's for a little pocket knife. Pocket knife that, well, here's the Benchmade Bug Out. This was controversial when it came out, primarily because of the name. If they had called this the Ultralight Gentleman's Office Folder, I don't think it would have gotten very many complaints and maybe not as great as sales. It's super light. It uses, half liners here on a skeletonized handle. Basically, it's a very thin knife. And, a lot of people, including myself, and I did videos about it, thought maybe this name, or the name Bug Out, should be saved for a really beefy knife like the Adamus or something. But anyway, here is the Narrows. Uses two titanium handles. They're not scales because they're not attached to anything. Couple of standouts. Now, a few letdowns. Those standouts do appear to be probably, well, some kind of steel. They are attracted to the magnet, as is this pocket clip. These should be titanium. I mean, titanium period, let alone for the price. And in fact, it looks very much like it is the Benchmade Bug Out pocket clip. I don't mind that, but it's also not deep carry. And I think at this price point, deep carry should be definitely something that the designers should go after. It does use ceramic, or actually I think they're metal ball bearings. Very smooth, but it's got a unique axis lock. It is a redesigned axis lock to fit it into such a thin mechanism, and in fact the bearing races. One is on the blade and one is in the handle, so a little bit different there. Silky smooth though. You can launch it this way. Oddly, of course you can use the thumb screw, but you can also hang on to it and flick it this way. In fact, you can hold on to the handle and flick it out if you really want to do that. I'll try that again. If I get the curve right, I'll hold it back here so you can see I'm not using that. There it went out. In other words, the detent is really soft on this. It's plenty good for a pocket, but as you can see, you might get a little separation. The blade is very thin. The steel on this is the M390. M390 steel is an interesting choice. Benchmade has been using it since 2010. It's basically like an earlier non-stainless steel that they added more tungsten to, and I love tungsten, so that's a plus. But it is essentially a super steel, so you can do an awful lot with it. It's got high corrosion resistance, and that seems to be the choice that they made for this this knife, although I don't know why they didn't use the titanium hardware where they could either. Anyway, this is a unique knife that is really raising eyebrows because of the price. If this was a $230 knife, everyone would be grabbing them thinking, wow, look at that, I got a Benchmade, it's titanium, maybe even $260, but $500, actually $520 seems to be about the street price, and then they have a black version that's about $600 retail. That's into the custom knife area. Now, I do like carbon fiber knives as well. Here's a S90V, I believe. Yeah, Nakamichi here. Beautiful, but very thick. And I noticed that right away. It does have liners and thick carbon scales, but in your pocket you do notice it. The Bug Out taught me that a really thin knife, since you carry it, over 99% of the time and use it less than 1% of the time, obviously, versus say a steak knife or something that lives in a drawer and gets used during dinner. But anyway, the Narrows is designed to be carried, so that's again why I wish that was a little deeper. It does slip into the pocket and disappear. It is often called the narrowest pocket knife, or the thinnest. No, it's not. In fact, here's one. Probably didn't even see it sitting there. Here's a thinner one. Makes the Narrows look absolutely gigantic. It's a little different. It only has one scale, one side. To operate it, it's a little bit different. You've got a little thing you got to push here. Not the greatest knife. If you were on a deserted island, this would not be your first choice. But it is thinner, so there are such things. This was one of my first forays into the super thin Benchmade knives, and I really like this. Carried it all the time, used it for everything. And you can see fairly close. Let's talk about weight. Throw this on the scale. This is 2.4 ounces. What does that feel like? Well, go to your toolbox and get your 3/8 drive 18 millimeter impact socket, shallow, and set that on there. It's about the same, really close. Or that unused 11 millimeter wrench, that's really close as well to the 2.4. Something like this snap-on little ratchet does feel light in the hand, but this is just the sheer tonnage, 3.1 ounces for something like that, which if you go over here to this is actually heavier than carrying that ratchet in your pocket. But anyway, back to the Narrows. It's a great knife, but why would Benchmade release such an expensive knife? I think that they are exploring. I first ran into this in Jackson Hole, Wyoming at a store. I was shocked when I saw it. I also fell in love with it. And I knew sometime I would get one, but I just didn't know when. It was just amazing. So since they came out with a black version, it means they must be selling. It is something that is discussed. There's plenty of videos and websites that talk about it. Most people get hung up on the price. What if it was $10,000? Would that make it any different? Benchmade has been known for not only charging a lot for their knives, but also their price increases. So a lot of times it's, you can approach $200 for a bug out. In fact, they make different versions so you can go well over $200. Stuff like this is now breaking $300. I think this was a little over $200 when I got it, and I thought that was outrageous. I thought, well, okay, this is going to be the last expensive knife I ever buy. Yeah, that didn't last long. This thing's around $200 for just this teeny weeny little guy here. Love this. Great knife. But $500 to $600. I mean, that's interesting territory. That's like 2.5 snap-on ratchets, maybe 3 snap-on ratchets, depending on which ones. That's a lot of ratchets. And it's just a thin knife with titanium. It's very light, noticeably light, but I mean, there are other light knives. This is a Boker titanium handle here. This guy, 1.9. There you go. So it's even lighter. It uses a VG10 steel blade, which is an excellent steel. Nothing wrong with it. A little dated, but not bad. And you can get these things for under $100. Something like that. Not as beautiful or as elegant, but definitely. And it's a flipper. I don't want to hit my camera, but nice little knife. So titanium isn't that expensive. It's just hard to work with. The Axis lock now is out in the wild. Lots of people are using it. M390 has been around since the late 80s. And Benchmade's been using it for quite a while. So nothing special there. Doesn't have titanium hardware. I don't know. But it is a glorious knife. It's kind of cool. Get that to focus. Come on. I think the camera's having trouble with the price of the knife too. But anyway, overall, a really cool knife. I think if you can get over the price and just look at what the features and performance that this thing offers, it's a great choice, but I don't expect sales to go through the roof. I do expect it to be one of those that attracts attention. So maybe from an advertising standpoint, Benchmade knocked it out of the park because they created something that might be considered absurd from the price standpoint, and now everyone's talking about it. Anyway, that's my thought. With that, Doc out.